guys, and welcome back to the 2023-24 SDPN NHL season previews. Today we're going on to the Arizona Coyotes, a team that's looking to improve massively in this next NHL season, but can they? We're going to be breaking down their additions, their subtractions, what they did in this entire offseason to see what they might look like next year. But first, let's talk about our friends over at Sports Interaction. Get in on the action and make your bet with Sports Interaction. Baseball's going strong with a ton of other sports as well. You can bet before the game, live and in play with all your favorite teams. Go to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN or download the app to get started. 19 plus, and of course, please play responsibly. Now, the Arizona Coyotes did make a jump this last year, going to 70 points on the year, and it wasn't anything really all that special, but they were really great at home in Mullet Arena, 21-15-5, but on the road, they were 7-25-9, just absolutely abysmal, and they ended off the year pretty poorly. But the Yotes did take some big steps with players like Clayton Keller becoming absolute superstars and franchise faces that they really needed. And the good news for them, on a really young team, they made some really good offseason additions. First, they got Jason Zucker on a really interesting deal. He's a little bit older at 31 years old, but this last year in 78 games, got 48 points, 27 goals, looked good there, and maybe on a second line, could do some good things in Arizona. You also got Alex Kerfoot, adding to the depth, adding to that middle six in Arizona, and this last year, 32 points in 82 games after getting a 51-point season. He'll probably be in the middle of that, around a 40-point guy for the Coyotes. Then you got Nick Bjugstad, who they brought back after they traded him to the Edmonton Oilers. Didn't really do a bunch in Edmonton, was in a pretty big depth role, but he was great with the Yotes this last year, 23 points in 59 games. We'll see if he's able to unlock that, but likely would be on that third line. But then you got the most important forward signing of this offseason for Arizona, and that is Logan Cooley. There were some speculation that he might not sign ever, but Logan Cooley pretty much quieted any of those fears, signing even after he was kind of nudging towards the University of Minnesota for another year. But Logan Cooley, third overall in 2022, he is a dynamic player and likely will be on that second line spot immediately to start as that second line center. This last year, 60 points in 39 NCAA games, dominating the U20 World Juniors. He is going to be a superstar for the Coyotes that just dominates play, controls every part of it, just play drives at an incredible rate. And for Arizona, that's exactly what they need. Maybe we see a Zucker-Cooley pairing. I could definitely see that happening. Then you got the defense, in which they acquired Sean Durzi from the LA Kings for a second-round pick. He's a really fascinating player here and still pretty young, turning 25 this October. But this last year has really shown great things offensively and really just the last couple years of LA. 38 points in 72 games last season. Defensively, there are some major issues, and there is some issues maturity-wise, but he's a player that offensively brings a lot to the table. And with Arizona's defense, they have a lot of these younger players that are hoping to take bigger next steps. You also got Travis Dermott, who they signed in free agency as a really interesting, risky, but potentially a payoff option, just having a complete lack of health really over the last couple years. And this last year at Vancouver, it was tough to see him only playing 11 games in the NHL. We'll see, he'll probably be on a third pairing role in Arizona, but could still be something there. Now for the Yotes, they did lose some depth in free agency. Christian Fischer not being tendered. He ended up going to the Detroit Red Wings after getting 27 points this last year. You also had Brett Ritchie, who they acquired from the Calgary Flames. He ends up just going unsigned, and he still is unsigned today. And then you got Connor Mackey, who they also got in that Calgary Flames deal. He ends up signing with the New York Rangers. Still though, nothing completely substantial that Arizona loses. Now when we look at the players to watch here, I have three different names that to me, if the Coyotes are going to take this big next step, are going to be a huge part of that. First is Logan Cooley, who of course they signed on his ELC from the NCAA, but he's pretty much locked up as a second line center spot already. I would be surprised if he doesn't get a spot like that already. He is a player that has game-breaking talent, can bring that speed and bring that pace that Arizona always wants more of in that top six. And you always want to have more players like Logan Cooley that can break the game whenever they want to. That type of player being added onto their second line is huge for them. An automatic Calder candidate is amazing. And if he's able to get around 50 points, maybe even touch 60 or so, that is such a big addition, and one of the better additions anybody had made this offseason. Then you, of course, also got Sean Durzi, who, if he's able to round out that defense a little bit, could be extremely important on the Arizona defense. We'll get into it in a second, but this Yotes defense is extremely young. They're talented, but can use some more maturity. Durzi is a player who will get a big opportunity on that defense, and hopefully thrives with it. And then for my third and final big player to watch, I have Victor Soderstrom, who was a top 15 pick by the Coyotes back in the 2019 NHL draft, but has yet to fully break into the NHL in a big way. He'll likely get pretty good minutes this next year, maybe being on that top 4. He's a player that I look out to potentially break out in terms of young defensemen in this league. He's a player that if it's going to happen, now is the time. The Coyotes have given him so much opportunity here this next year with a defense that is wide open, and Soderstrom does have the talent to be able to make it happen. Will he, is the question, but Soderstrom, this might be the year for him. Now let's go on to where we rate the forwards, the defense, and the goaltending. And when we look at Arizona and what they're rocking with, you of course have Logan Cooley add on as that second line center role, and that is huge for them. Having a Keller, Hayton Schmaltz, Michelli, Cooley, Zucker top 6 is quite underrated for me. And you look at that bottom 6 too, you got players like Kerfoot, Bukestad, Dylan Gunther's gonna be good next year. And you got players like Jack McBain, Boyd, and Krause who can hold up their own exceedingly well. I mean, Loss and Krause being on the 4th line is pretty fantastic depth. Arizona has upgraded so much in that position. I give their forward group a B+. Now, besides Keller, you're lacking a little bit of star power, but Schmaltz can be around a point per game. Hayton was fantastic down the stretch. I don't think it'll be a huge issue, but the depth is fantastic, and that'll be really good for the Yotes to keep up with. Now let's go to the defense, and this is, in my opinion, still the biggest weakness of the roster. Even though you do get Sean Durzi, which I think is a good addition for them, there's still a lot of youth there that is kind of up in the air. JJ Moser has proved to be solid so far. Valimaki was fantastic last season, but how much gas does Troy Stecher have left? Will Victor Soderstrom be able to capture a top 4 role? These are big questions, and I feel like it's going to be kind of in the middle. I don't think it's going to be amazing, but I also don't think it's going to be the worst in the league, but probably still towards the back, below average at the very best. I'm going to give the defense a D+. As of right now, it's super youthful, and I think it could be good eventually, but not quite as much right now. And then we look at the goaltending, which to me is also pretty underrated. Karel Vejmelka has done some great things over the last couple years with Arizona, and Connor Ingram has been pretty underrated in that backup role, coming up in some big ways of Arizona this last year. I'm going to give the goaltending a B-. It's nothing spectacular. It's not going to blow you away, but I think for Arizona, they have a decent tandem that can come up when they need to and do solid when they're relied upon. And with the defense, they probably will. Overall, though, this Arizona team is looking to make a jump, and I think definitely will, and I think they'll be an interesting situation, especially in the Central, and to me, I think they could leapfrog a little bit. I think there is a situation they are better than the St. Louis Blues, and to me, I think that's the team they'll be battling against. I think Chicago will still likely be in the bottom, even with some big additions like Hall and Bedard, of course, but I think Arizona will take some big next steps. I project them to get 81 points in the year, 6th in the Central Division, and it's one of my hotter takes. I see the Yotes taking a pretty big jump, 11 points, which isn't amazing, but I think for Arizona is good enough where they want to be, where they're a little bit competitive, not truly competitive. We'll still get a pretty solid pick, but for Arizona, some much needed improvement after some much needed improvement last year. But I want to know in the comments down below, how much of an improvement do you see this Arizona team making after the wealth of off-season additions they made? Do you see them being a much better team? Do you see them being in the playoff race, maybe being a playoff team? Or do you see them being back towards the bottom of the NHL, maybe even being back in the bottom 5 after last year, 6th place or 6th last in the NHL? And of course, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell if you guys are enjoying the season previews so far. Every bit helps. Next up, we'll be going on to the Boston Bruins. So of course, share this video. Stay tuned for that video tomorrow. We will see you then. Of course, 32 days, 32 season previews. We hope to see you for every single one. Thank you guys for the support so far. Drink some water. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.